Thursday, 8:30 a.m. This morning I have an interview with the legendary Barbara Walters regarding the upcoming anniversary of September 11th. All goes well. She's professional and to the point, which always helps. I'm also planning a surprise visit this morning to Barbara's show, The View, as I have been the center of their discussions for a few days. They've been waiting for me to call them, which I haven't done, as I think a personal appearance might be more fun, although they don't know about it yet. If someone challenges you, always try to take the challenge and run with it. 9:15 a.m. I have a meeting with Elaine Duratz, the Director of Sales at Trump World Tower at the United Nations Plaza. This condominium tower experienced a lot of opposition while it was being built, but it has literally been a triumph, both nationally and internationally. Even though Herbert Muschamp of the New York Times has lauded it, and it has recently won a coveted European award for design, that doesn't mean we sit back and wonder at our good fortune. Everything requires upkeep, especially something of this caliber. Plus, it is in constant demand as a location site for films and television shows. Elaine and I troubleshoot the latest details. 9:45 a.m. Don Jr. comes in to update me on his work. He's sharp and has some good insights on a few of our developments. It makes me think that maybe he's paid attention all these years after all. Norma comes in to tell me I should get going. 10 a.m. Brian and I go over to the ABC studios on the West Side to tape a special segment with Regis Philbin. It's a beautiful day and the city is sparkling, and as ever, so are Regis and Kelly. 11 a.m. I am lurking in the studios of Barbara Walters' show, The View, where I see Sharon Stone, who is a scheduled guest. At the top of the program, they are still discussing my hair and why I haven't called them back. Joy Behar mentions that here she is, still waiting for some guy to call, and Meredith Vieira mentions that expecting Donald Trump to call her back might be expecting too much. This conversation continues for a while. Will he call? Won't he call? And then I decide to just walk out onto the set. The audience shrieks when they see me, and Joy is, well, not exactly overjoyed, but certainly surprised. I receive a very warm welcome from Barbara, Starr, and Meredith, and I think Joy is relieved to know that I'm not at all in a huff over her remarks. I even let her touch and rearrange my hair and explain that while it may not be great hair, it's mine, and it's fine with me. We have a good time, and I think we'll all have to agree that a visit is better than a phone call. 12 p.m. Steve Wynn is here to visit me. We chat for a while, and then I take him on a tour of the Apprentice sets being built downstairs. Steve and I are close friends. Again. 12:30 p.m. This is an unusual day, even for me. Sandra Bullock is here to visit. So she comes into the conference room where I'm having a meeting just to say hi. I think the guys in the room are very impressed, and so am I, but I try to act cool. After all, my life isn't exactly dull, but getting a visit from Sandra is a highlight for everyone, especially the contractors, who cannot believe that it is actually her. 1 p.m. Robin, one of my assistants, is eating a great-looking salad, so I ask her to order one for me. Then I start returning calls that came in while I was out, including one to Bob Tisch, owner of the Giants and Lowe's hotels. The Tisch family has been a tremendous force for good in New York City, and I like Bob a lot. Most of the people I know don't take lunch hours, so when I return calls at lunchtime, it means I actually want to talk to them. I talked to Ashley Cooper, director of Trump National Golf Club at Bedminster, New Jersey, for an update on progress. I'll visit next week by helicopter to check things out for myself. I called Sirio Macchioni, the owner of Le Cirque, one of my favorite restaurants in New York. We've decided to have a business dinner there tonight. While getting a table isn't a problem, I like to talk to Sirio just to catch up on things. He has the instincts required to run a great restaurant, as well as the manners. I always look forward to seeing him. 1:30 p.m. I see Norma in the small conference room meeting with the Bank One executives about a credit card, the Trump card, which I'm starting. Everyone tells me this will be a great success, and it is going very well. Aretha Franklin's assistant calls to see if I can attend her concert at Radio City later in the month. Aretha is one of the all-time greats, but unfortunately I will be out of town on business. That's one of the downsides of having a busy schedule, but it's flattering to hear from Aretha. One of the things I think about when my schedule gets a little crazy is a labyrinth. Labyrinths date back to the ancient Greeks and usually imply something intricate or complex. Thinking about them helps me because my schedule can make a labyrinth look like tic-tac-toe, so it becomes a soothing visual for me. That may be some convoluted psychology, but it works. Later on, I learned that there are some famous labyrinths still around today, such as the one at Chartres Cathedral in France, and that they serve some meditative purpose. But the motive for me has always been to gain perspective on my own agenda. As they say, whatever works. 2 p.m. I attend the board meeting for one of my residential properties in the small conference room. I think anyone who lives in any of my buildings is fortunate, not just to be in a great building, but because we take pride in upkeep and service. We try to cater to the people living and working in my buildings in every way possible. So these meetings are important to me, and here's the reason. Past, present, and future tenants and owners have one very important quality in common. They all want the best for their money, which allows me to give you a simple formula for success. Deliver the goods. A lady in a building across from one of mine actually called in to complain to us. Her complaint? The constant cleaning and polishing of my building was making her crazy. Every time she looked outside and across the street, someone was cleaning something, which she thought was excessive and unnecessary, and that I must have some sort of a problem that should be taken care of. Ever hear of New York stories? Well, the funny part is that we don't have to make them up. 2:45 p.m. I decide to take a tour of the office. First, I visit Bernie Diamond, my general counsel, who was conferring with Sonia Talisnik. Then I see Andy Weiss and Don Jr. about something they're working on. I pass Scott Etis, who was on the phone, and see Charlie, Jill, and Russell in the conference room. I stop by to visit Misha Coppell, Vice President of Construction, and notice that Nathan Nelson and Anna DeVicentis are both busy on their phones. I asked my accounting team, Jeff McConney and Eric Satcher, to meet with me and Alan Weisselberg at 4:30. I see Ramon dealing with an enormous pile of mail, which we get plenty of around here. Everyone looks busy to me, and there's a nice hum to all the activity. On my way back, I stop to chat with George Ross and Jason Greenblatt. I notice some doorknobs need polishing, and that the copy room needs to be cleaned up a bit, but on the whole, the office is looking good. We've been in our Trump Tower offices for 20 years, and they still look brand new. 3 p.m. I agree to go to Ferragamo's new store opening and the Luca Luca fashion show at Bryant Park, and we're trying to rearrange my weekend schedule, which at this point is a whirlwind, even with a helicopter. It's a good thing I'm an active type, or this might tire me out. Reggie Jackson stops by for a quick visit. He's always welcome here, and my staff loves it when he visits. We chat for a few minutes, and I remember all the incredible moments he has given us as a Yankee. Truly a great. I return calls to Jay Neveloff, David Scharf, and my brother Robert, and make a call to Wallman Rink to see how we did with our summer attraction, Victorian Gardens. We used the ice rink space as an upscale amusement park for children during the summer months, and since this is our first season doing so, I'm interested in a first-hand account. 3:30 p.m. I take a walk over to Trump Park Avenue at Park and 59th. As I said, I like to keep my eye on things, and I never find property checks tedious. This is such a beautiful building. I remember being interviewed last year by the New York Times about both the building itself and the real estate market in New York. I told them people would rather invest in real estate than in Enron and WorldCom. You can touch it, feel it, smell it, as opposed to Enron, which you can only smell. Kostas Kondylis mentioned that this building also had an advantage over properties that boast of being pre-war-like, in that this building is definitely not pre-war-like. It is pre-war. Anyway, the work is coming along and it's looking good. I guess someone saw The View on TV this morning because as I'm walking back, a lady says, "Hey, Donald, your hair looks great." Whoever you are, thanks. 4:30 p.m. I take a call from Joe Cinque regarding Sardinia. That's pretty far away, but he says that next to Mar-a-Lago, it's his favorite place, and this guy travels all over the world. I'll have to check into it a bit. I have a short meeting with my finance group, Alan, Jeff, and Eric. I should have a picture of these guys for you. What a crew. However, they do good work. People often ask me where I find the people who work for me. I think it must be divine intervention if there is such a thing, but somehow it all works. Remember how I once said that you should try to get people you like to work for you? These guys are a good example of that advice. 4:50 p.m. Rona comes in to tell me that Jim Griffin is on the line. Ever heard of the William Morris Agency? He's the guy to know. Jim is another example of someone who will always tell it like it is, which I appreciate. He'll give you the facts, and fast. 5 p.m. I get a lot of letters from students of all ages who ask me specific things, either for school projects or for their own interest, and while I can't respond to them all, I like to review their letters. Sometimes the simplicity and directness of their questions can keep me aware of small and simple things. As Benjamin Franklin once said, "Beware of little expenses. A small leak will sink a great ship." In business, nothing is ever too small to notice. 5:30 p.m. I review a pile of legal documents, making short notes on them for response by my assistants tomorrow morning. If we didn't keep up with our correspondence several times a day, we'd be sunk. I receive requests from people in every industry under the sun, moon, and stars combined. My daily delivery includes submissions from artists, musicians, screenwriters, architects, authors, poets, comedians, chefs, designers, actors, shoemakers, and more. That's a condensed list. I also receive bundles of cookbooks from a lady in Illinois several times a year. Why she does this is beyond me. She must know that one of the few things I don't do is cook. 6:30 p.m. Enough ruminating. I check my faxes and go upstairs. Friday, 8:30 a.m. The electrical contractors call in with some bogus claims about why they're way off schedule. They've been slacking off on the job. I've been watching them carefully and know exactly what their problem is, and proceed to tell them so. They get the message and promise me they will get back on track. We'll see. I believe about 20% of what contractors say, and that's on a good day. They know what I mean. 9 a.m. Take a call from Dick Levy, a real gentleman, then I ask for a Diet Coke. Another call concerns an ad I placed about slot machines at the racetracks in New York, which I'm against. Without countless layers of security, it will not be in the public's best interest, and I therefore mention that it is obvious the ground under our racetracks is most fertile for growing organized crime. The ad contains a photograph of Al Capone with the caption, "He would have loved it." The bottom of the ad says, "Paid for by a committee of one, who may not always be right, but knows what's wrong." I think the point is made. Rona asks about the Giants game next week, and I decide to go. I return calls from Bo Dietl, Vinny Stelio, and Ivana, and place a call to Jim Griffin of the William Morris Agency. David Granger calls. Esquire magazine is using an apartment in Trump World Tower as an example of the ultimate man's apartment, the Esquire apartment. I have to agree with him that it's the ideal place. I take a call from a writer doing an article on motivation and leadership. One of the questions asked is how I handle a person who consistently makes the same mistakes. I tell them the truth. I don't. They're working for someone else now. 9:30 a.m. I take a moment to glance out the window, which I rarely do, even with the spectacular views from my office. There's something inspiring about New York City, and I feel fortunate to live here. Just as I'm thinking this, a call comes in from Los Angeles Confidential magazine for a comment on their publication. I tell them that Los Angeles is as viable a cosmopolitan center as New York City, which it is, and that I think their magazine has a lot of integrity. I always enjoy my trips to California, and with my new golf course in Los Angeles, I'll be able to spend more time there in the near future. I decided to call Jason Bin just to catch up on things with him. He's a successful magazine publisher, and I haven't spoken to him for a couple of weeks. I enjoy his take on things. Tom Fazio calls in to go over some course plans and to give me an update on my New Jersey golf course. He loves what he does, and that's made apparent by his attention to detail. John Mack of Credit Suisse calls in. Despite his great accomplishments, he remains an unassuming man. The work is what matters to him. These are two easy and informative calls. People have to understand that I've been dealing with all kinds of people in industries for a long time, so I can pretty readily discern who the goof-offs are and who the solid gold people are. So if you hear me blow up in my office at someone or something, there's usually a reason for it. It can be as clear as day to me, and I see no reason to tolerate someone being inefficient or irresponsible. I do my best, and so should they. I heard someone who had worked with me for a long time describing me as a generator. Someone who revs up, keeps going, gathers momentum, keeps going at a higher level, and all is well, except for the boiling point. Because when something causes me to explode, believe me, there will be a lot of energy behind it. But hey, at least I can be honest about it, and his assessment is accurate. A great Palm Beach lawyer called me a reverse tornado. I build everything in my path, instead of destroying it. Robin comes in to tell me the copies I want are delayed because our copy machine is on the blink again. I can't believe it. With all the amazing inventions of today, can't they design a copy machine that won't break down every 3 minutes? This is one thing that can make me lose my temper. I personally called Pete Strada, our director of purchasing, and asked him when the lease is up on this terrible machine. I want it out of here. 10 a.m. Norma comes in and we go over the event I'm hosting with Heidi Klum and Jonathan Tisch for the Elizabeth Glaser Pediatric AIDS Foundation. It will be held at Sotheby's next month. We also discuss some interview requests and invitations, seeing if and how we can fit them into my schedule. Every week we think that week can't be topped. Then the next week is even more hectic. So what's happened is that our stamina has increased. I am much busier now than I have ever been. That's one reason I don't complain much. I literally don't have time to. I take a call from Tony Senecal, the head butler and historian at Mar-a-Lago. This guy is terrific and a great asset to Mar-a-Lago. He fills me in on the latest, and I'm glad he has X-ray vision when it comes to details. Jean-Georges Vangeristen calls in. In addition to being a genius when it comes to food, he's also a visionary. He's a celebrity in his own right, but I can tell you that what really matters to him is cooking. And when you visit any of his restaurants, you'll find out what I mean. 10:30 a.m. Tina Brown of publishing fame calls. We weren't always on such good terms, but we put our differences aside. I enjoy talking with her. She's quick and insightful. I asked George Ross and Carolyn Kepscher to come in. I've decided they should play themselves in pivotal roles on The Apprentice. They both agree and do not seem put out at all. There won't be any acting involved because to them it will be another day on the job. Maybe a longer day on the job, but just another day. Total pros. I take a call from Jim Dowd, senior press manager at NBC, regarding The Apprentice, and one from Jay Beanstalk, a producer on The Apprentice. Both guys know exactly what they're doing, which is a relief to me. Then I yell at some contractors for a while. It's too boring to tell you about this, but it's something that is absolutely necessary in real estate development and construction. I spend much of my days doing this. I take a call from Eliot Spitzer, the New York State Attorney General. He is one smart guy who has an even more brilliant future ahead of him. He's just amazing. 11 a.m. I go down to the large conference room to see some plans for a possible new development. Charlie, Russell, Jill, and Don Jr., my development team, go over them with me. This could be a go, but I'll have to think about it a bit more. I don't have a formula for making decisions. Each situation is unique, and I allow my assessment to be equally unique, with no time constraints. When it's right, it will be right. I may have the reputation of being brash, but I am very restrained in regard to making decisions. People don't see the process. They only see the results. 11:30 a.m. I return 9 calls and realize I'm looking forward to having lunch at the golf club and a round of golf with Bill Clinton, David Granger, and Alphonse. It's a beautiful day and I love checking out the course. That's one reason I don't feel too guilty about taking a Friday afternoon off. I'll still be working. Someone sends in a big box of Godiva chocolates. This will be tough, but I'll just look at them for a while and then put them outside from my staff. Who says I'm not a nice guy? Ditto for those Belgian truffles. Life can be tough. 12 p.m. I asked George Ross to come in and we go over a few things. George brings the word laconic to life. 5 minutes with him equals 1 hour with your average lawyer. 12:05 p.m. I decide to call Mike Donovan. I want to see how the work is going on my 727. He says it will be ready next week, which is good news, as I want to visit my golf course in California. 12:15 p.m. Mark Burnett and his 2 producers, Jay Beanstalk and Kevin Harris, come in for a meeting to go over the assignments to be given to the 16 candidates on The Apprentice. This is an interesting process. We want to make sure that each assignment has a purpose beyond entertainment. These guys are not only nice, they're intelligent. I really feel they've got their bases covered. Any apprehensions I had about the TV show have evaporated. 12:45 p.m. I go through 27 requests, including invitations from Norway, Peru, and India. Norma tells me I should view the video made for Trump Park Avenue before I leave, which has some beautiful footage. It's a great video. 1 p.m. I collect my papers and faxes and ask Rona to call the elevator and to tell Eddie to have the car ready in 15 minutes. I make my exit. It's been a great week. I just hope the car is ready. Otherwise, Eddie's in for it. Big time.